Yo, what is up guys, it's Jack and welcome back to another video. So judging by this title alone and also with the last couple of videos or so that I've made, I bet some of you guys are probably thinking by now, man, this guy must love tearing Call of Duty a new asshole. He just really loves to hate on the game and he's just a hater and all this and that. And well, if you just watched my past 3 videos and if you haven't been here long enough, then I certainly don't blame you for thinking that way. But as a matter of fact, the opposite is true. It's I'd rather be loving on the game, and as a matter of fact, with this game in particular, it's I've got like a love and hate thing going on with this game. You know what I mean? Just to give it more of a, to make the perspective a little bit cleaner, so to speak, and more relatable. It's kind of like you're dating this one girl who's good looking and she's a sweetheart deep down inside, but at the same time, she's a little too lazy and she doesn't give head. So it's as you guys can see, I think that's a kind of a fair comparison in terms of the love and hate that I have with Call of Duty in this game. And if you really think about it in depth and if you think outside the box like I do, I'm sure you can kind of see where I kind of get that sort of comparison, because in actuality it really kind of is that way. So it's like I'm being tugged between two sides. It's like tug of war and I'm straight in the middle and people are pulling me from both ends. So it is what it is. But anyway, with all that being said in this little intro of words here, is Call of Duty Black Ops 4 the most quote-unquote unfair Call of Duty? Now, there are many different things. There are many different things that basically every Call of Duty has that makes it quote-unquote more fair or quote-unquote unfair, balanced. There's everything. I mean, basically, once upon a time, I think it was maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, give or take, Marka J made a video, and these words always stuck with me because it's such a basic and yet simple answer, and it makes all the sense in the world. It doesn't have to be any more complicated, really. It doesn't really have to be complicated. But the thing is, once I guess he got asked in the comment section one too many times or whatnot, and he ended up just answering it in one of his videos, one of his live comms or whatnot. They basically said, how in the world do you not rage at this game whenever you die or whenever you die of such bullshit and all this and that? And his answer was that Call of Duty is not a fair game. And if you think about it, when you put everything together and you think outside the box and you think about every single little detail and every little thing that could happen that could get your ass killed in Call of Duty in the craziest way, in the easiest way, and with all that shit that happens in this game, if you think about it, yeah, Call of Duty in general is not a fair game. Now, I think that kind of ties in with what people's perspective of what a good and what a bad Call of Duty is. Some people think that a better Call of Duty is one that's more quote-unquote unfair, in a sense, and I'll get to that in a second in that explanation. And for some other ways, it could be the opposite, because if you ask a lot of the majority of the Call of Duty community, a lot of people will say that Black Ops 1 was either a solid game or arguably the best Call of Duty ever made. And when you think about it, and when you compare it to a game like this, to Black Ops 4, when you compare it to that, Black Ops 1 seems a lot more fair than this game. Granted, it did have a share of problems. We had the Ghost FAMAS imbalance and problem, right? We had Second Chance, which is basically Final Stand or whatnot, and the hit detection was definitely not very good. So other than those 3 things, I'd say that game was pretty decently balanced for what it was, especially for back then when it was released. So I honestly think that in terms of balance, I think Black Ops 1 is pretty much the godfather of a quote-unquote balanced Call of Duty. It pretty much started it all. For one of the things that they did, for instance, was, again, the community was kind of divided when it came down to this decision that they made in Black Ops 1, and that is that score streaks, the kill streaks, what they were known back then, they didn't stack. You had to get all your kills with your gun, and then for them to reset, you had to die. So there were people in the community that liked that and appreciated that, and yet at the same time, there were people in the community that absolutely did not like that. But for the most part, even though there are things about Black Ops 1 that the community liked and didn't like, just to give you an example, just naming Black Ops 1 as an example, despite the fact, a lot of people actually like that game for a multitude of reasons. So the thing is that, are you one of those people? The thing that I want to know, and when it comes to communicating with you guys as part of the community as well, the thing that I want to know is, where do you stand in terms of your opinion with this? Do you guys prefer a game that's more unbalanced or a game that's more balanced? And balance can mean different things. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit to Modern Warfare 2, or excuse me, I'm gonna rewind to Modern Warfare 2. For instance, one of the things that a lot of people say is balanced about Modern Warfare 2 is the fact that everything was over fucking powered. Everything was strong. All the weapons were good. They all did good damage. You could pretty much like wreck face with every single weapon. The kill streaks were absolutely insane and all that kind of stuff. They did what they were supposed to do and all that. So therefore, if everything is like that, so therefore everything is balanced to a certain degree. Now granted, at the same time, there are other people out there in the community that disagree. They think that something like Black Ops 1 is the true definition of balance as compared to everything being overpowered. So there's different ways that people prefer and people look at it when you look at it in that kind of sense. So in other words, going back to the girl thing, it's like, do you do you prefer a girl that's a sweetheart but doesn't like to give head, or do you prefer a complete bitch but gives some of the best fucking head you've ever received? So that's basically what it is. That's two forms of balance right there if you think about it. And like I said in the beginning of this commentary, I think outside the box. This is basically the way my mind works specifically, and I think just in so many different scenarios in my head, just thinks of all sorts of different scenarios, and this is just the way I think as a person that I am. And I know I'm not alone in this, and I know a lot of people in the community are like this. But even if you're not, hopefully this made for an interesting subject for you, and it kind of made you think a little bit. So in your opinion, which Call of Duty do you believe is the most quote-unquote fair or the most quote-unquote unfair, and why? And the thing is, it could take you a while to think this up, because quite frankly, there are many iterations and different flavors of Call of Duty that we've had over the last, like, what, 10 years or whatnot, or let's just say for argument's sake since COD 4. So everybody will have, I think, a unique answer and a unique perspective, and I'm really curious, and I'm sure down in the comments section you guys will probably let me know what your perspective is and what you guys think. So I'm really interested and curious to know your points of view and the way you specifically think, because I find that very interesting. And as soon as I started thinking about it more and more, I'm like, this is definitely worth talking about in this video. And I think by the time you get through thinking about it, it's like, yeah, I personally think it is interesting. So let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Which Call of Duty is the most fair? In your opinion, which one is the most unfair? And for you personally, does balance have a lot to do with that, or not at all? Anyway, guys, that's all I got for this one. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay and the commentary. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, let me know. And if you didn't, let me know what I could do to make my videos better. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.